It's amazing what you can do in Canva in probably 90 seconds. Not bad, eh? And you said you hadn't even heard the audio for that before, so
No, I saw the image before you sent it to me, and it was cool, but I hadn't heard the audio. It almost sounds like my laugh, like a goofy version of my laugh.
I've never heard you laugh like that.
No, I have a high. I once so when I was working at a bank, there was a guy, a really awesome coworker, and he said I had a pimp laugh. He would make fun of my laugh because I'm like. he would say I laugh like a pimp, and he would make impressions of me doing the laugh, and then say like, where's my money? That always stood with me when he said that.
That's funny. For a second there, I was like, is that a pimp laugh? But then just as you at the end there, I remember Deuce Bigelow and his
Okay.
the guy that played the pimp in the hot tub. And he's like, Deucey, you the best he bitch
Yes.
in my man stable. And there's like a piece of tomato floating around in the hot tub with you sandwich.
Eddie Griffin, great stand-up comedian.
Whatever happened to him? I can't say I've seen
He
him.
still does some here and there. He had some big failed publicity stunt where he like crashed $1 million car to promote a movie. Like it wasn't his job wasn't to crash the car. He accidentally crashed the car. But like after that, I don't know. His career hasn't gone like that much higher than that.
Yeah. Oh, he was funny. So that's a pimp laugh. But yeah, I guess it kind of is. Is that like a nervous male energy because you're doing something wrong? Like is that why that vibe? Like, when you think about that description?
I don't think so. I think it's more talking about like a specific era with the just very flashy with like a green furry sweater vest or in a hat, like a big top hat, like a colored bowler or something, and just like with a little cane. I don't know. That's what I think he was picturing. That's what I pictured when he said that, at least.
That's funny. I mean, I think that laugh could work within that costume for sure. So there you go. Maybe that's your stage persona. We were talking about that before.
Oh my goodness, that's like the furthest thing from me.
No, that's maybe why it would be funny. You could be like, come on as Michael the Pimp, and then don't talk about pimping or anything at all. Like, don't just take on the.
I would have to play off it.
Another thing I've noticed, and this is the second call I've been on, or thing I've been on. Look at it looks like I've got like crazy eyebrows, and I think it's the shadow from my glasses.
Oh yeah, it is. It is the shadow. Why are you so angry?
Is that better? That's kind of better. Was Arrested Development, and was it Ed Begley? Always played a guy where he had alopecia, and so he didn't have eyebrows, so he had like different eyebrows for different occasions. And then Michael says something like, "You seem really surprised," and he's like, "Oh, damn it!" And he's like adjusts his eyebrow because it was like sticking up. It's so funny. Okay, workshopping stuff. I don't know where this is gonna go, but before we got started here, I was telling you, like, I went to the dentist on Monday, and I went there to get every four. It was at least 4 fillings done. I think it was 6, but it was all 4 corners of my mouth.
Oh boy!
And like dentists don't want to do that, I think, in general. Probably because there's a sitting fee plus the actual dentistry. So get me in 4 times. There's more money to be had, but I'll leave that aside. But the other part is just, you freezing your whole mouth is a lot of trauma. And I said to the lady, and she was very cool about it, that just said, I really just want to be one and done. Like, the next time you see me, it'll be in 4 years. I'll do the cleanings, but, I'd just like to do it all. Can I be put under? Because I've been put under once before for that. Okay. And she said, no, not through her. She'd have to outsource it, but I could have gas. So I was like, oh, great. Give me the gas. Like, I knew I was already going on CBD because I've had used CBD to heal all kinds of stuff, including getting rid of 2 root canals by massaging my gums for a week, which the dentist seemed very interested in. She'd heard that before. So anyways, I digress. Where was I going with that? CBD. Oh, so I was taking CBD, um, and then I thought CBD plus gas should be really good, and it was. So I get there. Oh, and I also was wearing my new jawbone ear things. I don't have them here, but the
Oh, okay.
kind of sit on your jawbone, and so that they don't go in your ears, right? And I've been
Okay.
experimenting with that a lot because of my ADHD, and like I'm sound just hits me. I'm so acoustic. I'm exploring that I was like, oh, I could put on my own personal soundtrack, still hear what's going on around me, and so like I walk around most of the time with them on, listening to music, and and nobody knows, right? And they'll start talking to me like, oh shit, you're talking to me, and so it's a whole interesting thing. But so I was wearing those during the dentistry work as well. So I'm on CBD, I'm on gas. I'm listening to music, but can still hear everything like from the dentist because I don't have any things in my ears. And then I got
Okay.
sunglasses on for the splatter. And with the gas, she gets you to breathe in and out through your nose and mouth, right? So like real
Okay.
deep breath, kind of like breath work, which you can kind of get
Yeah.
high doing that if you do a lot of that too, right? The Wim Hof method and stuff. So she's got me breathing, and that's to help the gas pull in. So I obviously pulled in the gas really well because during this dentistry work, it started with the freezing was in, nothing hurt, it was great. She's working away, but then it was like I kept drifting and drifting, and eventually I wasn't even in my head. I was now inside my mouth. Like I was having like a DMT kind of experience where I was like my mind and my awareness was in my mouth, and I couldn't see it, but I could feel it. I knew I was there. I could hear them talking to me, and they would even ask me questions, and I would respond like I was there in awareness. But I would like she'd say, "Can you move your to the right or something?" And I would just do it, and I would even answer her, but I wasn't answering her. You know what I mean? Like I was having an out of body experience. And so this gas is working through, and see, I don't even know if this is a bit, other than maybe like actually no, there's more on that too. But so I'm in this experience, and I'm inside my mouth, and then as she's working, I swear she's using like like one of those big saws you use to cut down a tree. Like it
Oh,
was that
jeez.
because I was in my mouth. I guess my conceptual mind had decided that I'm now the size of an ant, right? So I'm a person inside my mouth as an awareness, and she's using this giant saw, very kind. It didn't hurt, but it was like, oh, you're using this big fuzzy saw, and my teeth felt like wood. It was a whole thing. It's crazy,
Have
but
was Magic School Bus ever a thing in Canada? Did you guys ever have Magic School
I've
Bus?
definitely heard of it. I don't think I ever saw it. So
Okay. Often what they do, a whole school bus full of kids, and they would like shrink and go inside somebody's like reproductive system, or like that's what I like pictured, like shrinking, and you're inside your mouth, and just yeah.
that's so interesting, man. I find now that I'm so influenced by media that I see that you just reminded me of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Oh yeah,
And
where they're in the cereal.
yeah, well, like, yeah, Rick
He's
Moranis'
on the
character,
screen.
like, shrinks himself and his family, and or I don't know if he's shrunk. Anyways, that's so interesting. I wonder if my mind picked up that thread. That's what it was like, though. I was inside, and I'm like, is this really happening? Like I was just so high. And so no THC, but the CBD I think just made me super relaxed, and the breathing can get you really relaxed. So you can get high on your own supply. So I was
Okay.
really high on my own supply, and then I was breathing in gas, and it was awesome. So, but that experience. You ever seen Tales from the Trip? It's a series on YouTube.
No.
Dude, it's the funniest thing you'll ever see, especially if you've ever done plant medicine. I met people that haven't; they wouldn't get it. But if you've ever even just been high once, or certainly if you've been on DMT or ayahuasca or mushrooms, But it's all these comedians talking about their acid experiences, their DMT
Okay.
experiences. And so Shane Moss, I don't know if you know that guy.
Don't think so.
So he's in Victoria on Saturday, and he's doing a show where I think he talks about his psychedelic experiences. Like that's his set now, I think. But it's apparently
Okay.
an interactive show, so I'm assuming he's actually probably going to be completely high on stage. So I'm assuming
Wow.
I don't know, or he just uses that to get his material and then just goes like to the. Actually, I'll have to report back. That'd be very interesting. I wonder if he, tonight is having some plant experience with the intention that he'll just talk about it because he's funny on Saturday. Like that would
Are you going
actually.
to go to it?
I think so. I actually think so. I
Cool.
was that Wendy. I sent it to Wendy, and usually she's not into that. Well, no, not into that kind of thing, but like just not into going to shows downtown. But I think we might. So yeah, I'll report back. But either way,
Yeah.
for you or anyone that's listening, Tales from the Trip on YouTube is awesome. There's a guy there. He wears this brown pointy hat, and he talks about taking mushrooms and then trying to buy a computer while like completely high and realizing that he took mushrooms twice an hour apart and forgot. So it came in like these two waves, and he
Oh no.
describes it. But the way he describes it, so funny. And then the visuals are all cartoony, fun, crazy stuff. So all that to say, circling all the way back, was there? I wonder if there's material within that dentistry experience. Like because when I go to see this dentist, and my friend helped me choose this dentist. So my friend Sheila is a very prominent dentist out east, and I've never had good experiences with dentists. So I was just like, I need to find a good dentist, but I also want to go to the most modern, up to speed dentist. So I don't know what terms people are using, but I don't want, Aunt Marjorie's friend, Uncle Frank, that's using, stuff from the 80s. No, thank you. Done that enough. So she pointed me to this woman, Tina, and she's fantastic. Great dentist, great crew, great office, everything. But she's actually open to hearing me talk about some of my experiences with because I went in there supposed to have have a root canal 2 years ago, year and a half
Oh,
ago.
okay.
And so I went in, and so she looked, and she's like, "Yeah, that tooth's practically dead." And when she hit it, I guess how they test it is the tooth just feels different. It feels like a
Okay.
stump of wood, right? So it felt different. I was like, "Oh man, I don't want a root canal. I've heard they're awful. I mean, they're terrible, right?" I didn't want to do it. So I pulled out my metaphysical book one night, and I was doing my thing, which I would at night, which is take some CBD, a little bit of THC, and then get grounded, listen to my body, and wait for something to tingle. And that night, I went in with the intention of like, no, I want to know about this wisdom tooth. So I started looking into the metaphysical part of wisdom, or not wisdom tooth, or root canal. And I don't remember what it said, but it was another one of those moments where it's like, oh, yep, I know exactly. You know what I mean? It's like one of those layers of an onion. And so that was super interesting. But now I'm missing a step before that. I had done 5-MeO DMT a couple of weeks before that as well. So the timing
Okay.
of it, I was at a friend's place, and I tried this 5-MeO for the first time. And it's like intense. It's 15 minutes and it's over. And you're like, it's beyond ayahuasca. So anyways, I did that, and there's a couple of takeaways from it, but one of them was I was in my mouth, and that tooth. So I was aware that that tooth was hurting me. So I think I probably booked the dentist thing because my tooth was hurting. Then I had this DMT experience where this tooth, I could feel like a river going down. Like I could feel that tooth and the energy of it going down my neck, and it just kept repeating in my
Oh,
mind during
okay.
it. So, but it wasn't like a good river. It was like lava, right? It was just so it like in this experience, it was like you got to deal with this. And then I also had a feeling this side of the mouth, which was you've got metal in your mouth, get rid of it. So I went to this dentist, and that's what I went to say. This tooth hurts, and do I have any metal fillings left? And sure enough, I had one still left up here. All the others have been replaced by porcelain or whatever they use now. But she said, yeah, you've got a root canal. That tooth is practically dead. Thankfully the word was practically, like it wasn't, it's dead.
Okay.
It was like that tooth is dying. So I was
It's
like,
only
okay,
mostly dead.
it's only mostly dead, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, see this week, if I can shorten this whole thing, there's probably something there. But so this mostly dead tooth, I went home and I'm like, I gotta, dig out the metaphysical book. I'm gonna take my CBD. I'm gonna get like into that grounded space that's where I access it. And then I'm gonna play with that tooth. And I had this. urge to massage the gums, like just push up. And so I kept pushing up, and it hurt like hell, I gotta say. My gums were aggravated. It was like something was stabbing at it with a razor blade inside my mouth, that kind
Oh,
of pain.
okay.
But I just, knowing what I know about how the body holds on to things, and if you can let it go for up to 2 minutes, it physically can leave the body energetically. I was pushing up against the gums, pushing, 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 pushing. And after a couple of minutes, I felt something like come out of my gums. And in my
Right.
mouth was this white, I don't know, white goo. But it occurred to me that, like, I hit the infection, I got to the root of the issue, and then I massaged it out, and then it was gone. And it was like 2 weeks later that I went to the dentist for the follow up to decide if we were going to do this root canal, like for scheduling. And I said, this is my experience. This is what happened. It feels okay to me. And she was checking it, and she's like, yeah, that's like way better. Like it wasn't healed,
Wow.
but it was like, it went from like a 10% life to 80% kind of thing.
Okay.
So I tell you all that being that here I'm at the dentist on Monday, and she's checking my teeth, and I haven't been in a year and a half because I'm not a good habits guy. So I brush
No,
my.
same. I have one on Monday, and I've already like pushed it off once, and I'm trying to figure out how I can push it off again.
You know how you push it off? I'm realizing is you got to actually do the work. I got to brush my teeth at morning and night. You got to floss. I went to a massage therapist once who was a very good massage therapist, or oh, it wasn't massage. Anyways, a therapist for body movement. Very good at that. But what he said to me that day is like, dude, if you don't floss your teeth, that's like taking a shower and not cleaning your armpits or in your groin. Like those are the spots where stuff gets in the dark. And he's like, so if you're not flossing, it's like you're walking around. And I was like, wow, never like you when you take that visual, that smell, that was enough to be like, okay, I'm gonna. And I'm still not great at it, but I definitely raised my tooth
Yeah.
game by 30% that day. So yeah, so I went there on Monday, and same thing. I've got this like feeling this tooth is hurting, and but a week before I was massaging it, and I had the same experience. So I think I might have had been like entering another root canal when I went to the dentist, but got ahead of it. But she had commented that the gums looked aggravated there, but that the tooth looked fine. And I honestly think
Oh,
I basically got ahead of this root canal by like
okay.
banging it out ahead of time. So it's powerful stuff. Um, and I just went there not wanting to be there, but they were
Right.
excellent, and I had actually a pretty good experience. It was 3 hours too. Like my mouth at the
Jeez.
end of the night felt like someone had punched me in the head like 1,000 times. Right, so it was a long day. So yeah. Anyways, I don't know if that's a bit. I don't know if there's stuff there. I think there's some, or is a bit. And again, I'm all over the place with the idea. Like, do I want to do stand up or do I want to do storytelling? Do I want to share experiences, but communicate it in a way that it's memorable by it being humorous or whatever, right? Like, what could I do to share that? Because I think that's information that people could benefit from. Like, oh, you mean I could potentially avoid a root canal by reading a passage in a book?
Right, but that
Reading it
then it's something for like a speech or a YouTube video, not stand up, you know.
I'm not,
Um,
I'm not a speech guy though.
yeah, yeah. So couple things. One, I always have bad experiences with the dentist because I never want X-rays, and they act like it would be. I feel like they would be more forgiving on me if I just didn't go for 4 years than if I did get regular care, but then said no thanks to X-rays. They guilt you so hard to get X-rays.
So two things on that. One, I want to know why the X-ray itself bothers you, and two, at this last session with this very modern dentist, it was the most X-rays I've ever had. Like it used to be like two, like one side. This one was like I had to like put my head back, and it was like they were shooting a missile through my head, and then from the top down, I'm like, what are you looking at? But I will say that this dentist is on the ball and is open and seems genuinely interested in better tooth care, which is also why I was like, she can take the X-rays because I want the data, right? I view the X-ray as data, like because I want to see too. I'm sure.
I don't.
Yeah, I know because they've shown me the pictures before. They would have shown me if I asked, like for the evidence. But anyway, so that's my like I'm pro X-ray. Why is that the part that bothers you? Because that's the part that bothers me the least. So,
Okay. Several reasons. One is I don't want the radiation. I don't care if it's small. I don't care if they just toss it aside. I don't want it. The other part is like it does impact me. I don't mentally it feels like on some level, and I'm very anxious. Last time when I got a scan, I had the worst panic attack I've ever had. So
hmm,
I just try to avoid those situations. I'm just like I don't think I'm claustrophobic necessarily, but just high anxiety. Um, but yeah, and where I was going with one of those things at the dentist, they gave me a shot when they did something with my tooth, and it had I can't remember the chemical in it, but some kind of form of adrenaline or something, and I thought my chest was gonna explode. Like I needed to go to the bathroom to like be there by myself for like 10 minutes because it was awful. My body
nice.
could not handle it.
Couple things on that. For
Mm-hmm.
one, even the timing of you saying the sensations that you had in there. Last night before I went to bed, I was like, I'm ready for some new hypnosis things to work on, right? Because
Okay.
I've got all these hypnosis tracks for trying to drink less, anxiety,
Okay.
fear, procrastination, right? I really always aiming for that personal improvement. And last night I decided to grab claustrophobia, and then something else you said there. I don't. I need to look at my phone because it was quite. And I didn't actually listen to them last night because I ended up passing out. But
Okay.
I was like, it's interesting that I'm choosing those because I don't think of myself as those are my issues, but I know I've got a little of every issue. So it was like, okay, well, I'm going to work on that
Mm.
next because there's panic attacks. That was the other one because I've realized that I've had some in the past, but didn't know there were panic attacks at the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was so overwhelming that the panic of the panic attack was overwhelming, if that makes sense, right? So yeah, I that's literally what I bought last night, man. And they're really
Okay.
powerful. They're like $6. It's an audible thing. It's basically a meditation, but then they plant the suggestions that go, and that's when you're in that dentist chair, you're kind of in your unconscious. All your fears are coming out.
Yeah.
Everything's triggering, and yeah, you know what? Like I definitely know I've got claustrophobic kind of tendencies. I don't like being in an elevator. I would never be in that sub, looking at the Titanic. I'm not gonna
Oh
go
gosh.
there to the
That
movie.
that there's so much just the thought, just the mention of that is like I yeah, what comes to mind is going to sound bad. Like I would rather just get my life over with than put myself in a situation of being down there. That's how much anxiety that brings me. Like I'd rather just be dead
Yeah.
than have to be forced in that thing.
So where does that come from? Do you think? Because now that you say that, like I am the same, and I think I've prioritized other issues, or it's just more prominent. Like if you think of things in percentages, right? Like you feel that 80%, I feel at 30, others might feel at zero, or But yeah, that's really interesting. So is that a physical felt fear or in your mind?
I'm not sure, and it's not even a fear. It's like
Hmm. How is it
like
not a
yes,
fear? Like
yes, there's there okay, there's fear there. But what I'm talking about is like knowing that I would rather do this than that. Like that's how bad that would be for me. Like
hmm,
uncomfortable.
yeah.
So I don't see it as like a fear as much. Like I don't fear that somebody's gonna throw me in that thing and make me go down and look at the Titanic. But like I just have no interest in it. Like, yeah, I
Mhm.
guess it's based in fear. Fear is a yeah. I mean it
Well,
has to
like
be,
I
but
think it's okay to admit it's a fear. Like it's being uncomfortable is fear based, is it not? I mean, what else, right? You're
is
basically
it just not feeling
well,
comfortable?
like if you're having discomfort with someone verbally, like you don't want to have confrontation, that's uncomfortable. right? It's not you're
But
gonna
you can not
die.
feel
Heaven
good. You can not feel good and it not be fear based, right?
You cannot say that again. You can.
You can feel uncomfortable or not like something without it being based in fear, right? I think a lot of times it probably is based in fear, but I don't
But
think it's always.
maybe, yeah, that might be true. But can you give me an example then? Because in my mind, uncomfortable, the word uncomfortable feels like a body discomfort, and if it's from the body, generally it's a splenic kind of fear, right? Like it's a we like yeah. I mean, even as I say it, I can feel my skin, being sensitive. Like that. What would you call it? Pins and needles when I think about the word uncomfortable.
I guess the best way I can think of it is like eating something that you don't like. There's not fear there. I just don't like it. I don't like the
Right.
taste of it. I'm not scared that I'm gonna like it or that it's gonna hurt me in some way. I just don't like it.
So when you're in that dentist chair, it's not fear of being in the dentist chair for you. It's you just don't like it.
Oh, I'm sure there's fear that I'm in the dentist chair.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what I was getting at, and I think that's where like we overlap for sure on our
Okay.
feelings about this. Like, I've had fear of being in a dentist chair because I've had some awful dentist experiences. Like,
Mm.
right from, I mean, I think back to when I was like 10 and walking to this dentist in Ontario, and I had to walk there from school. So it was like I already had a shitty day at school, and
Oh,
I got to
geez.
walk by myself to the dentist
To go get tortured in a
to go
chair
get,
by a stranger.
and it was my dad's, guy my dad knew through Rotary, but like I just knew every time I was there, I wasn't getting good care. You know what I mean? I was young enough to know, and I remember this really clearly. There was like in the dentist, the waiting area, the series of
Yeah.
books that the dentist has. One was this dentist story, and as I'm reading it, he's like, Doctor, and I don't remember his name, and nor do I want to. He's probably long retired, but Doctor da 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 was a really persistent da 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 da. It only took him 4 times to pass his dentistry exam or something like that. Like he was really tenacious, and I was like, I don't think you want to read that when you're 10 or 12. No, I must have been 12, 13 in the dentist office going, this guy, you know what I mean? Like it plants a seed of doubt. And then because it was my dad's friend and I just didn't feel comfortable, but I went through it and I just got such awful dental care. And then it just kind of like, and then it just got worse from there. Right. So,
Yeah. That jogged a memory for me. I don't think I've told you this before. It's not like a huge thing or anything, but my wife got some dental care in Chicago, and I was in the dentist office looking at their books. One was like 500 things you should do before you die. Or maybe it wasn't even 500, 100, 250. Anyways. And so there were things like go fishing in the ocean and hike and very like, sensible things that you and I would, want to do once probably before we pass on. And then I'm going through the pages. Doing the Iditarod was one of the things they recommended. Are you
yeah,
familiar with the Iditarod?
I've never even heard of it. Iditarod?
Yes. So the Iditarod is I believe it's the longest sled dog race that's held in Alaska in the world. You need a team of between 12 and 16 dogs. And let me look at the distance here. Let's see. The distance of the race is it takes around 8 to 15 days to complete.
And why would someone need to do this before they die? It sounds like it's an experience, but
And people have died doing it. Like it's known as like the most grueling. It's roughly 1,000 miles. And this is one of the things you're supposed to do before you die. Yeah, right. This is one of the things that will cause my death, not something I want to do before.
There's so many things that are nuts about that, right? Like something you should do before you die is potentially kill 12 to 16 dogs, right? Like that's something that you should do. before you die is torture these dogs, right?
Or maybe I read the book. Maybe I read the book title wrong, and it's like 500 Ways to Die, and like the fishing was like go out in the ocean on a paddle boat with a fishing rod in the middle of the ocean. Like maybe that's what it was. It was like creative ways.
Okay,
To end it
so you
all.
don't really remember what the name of the book was. If it's just
I
500.
do. I'm just trying to be silly at this point,
But you know
but
what? That's
I'm just trying
funny.
to rationalize why anybody would have that in a book like that. This is people train like decades to do this race, and you invest so much money. I mean, where am I getting 16 dogs from? Am I just getting strays? I don't have, a purebred Alaskan Malamutes to guide me.
I wonder, like, someone's must have written a book for 50 ways to die in an interesting way. But if they did, like, they would be condemned immediately because just like ACDC was promoting a highway to hell, like someone will take that and find a way to make it unfunny, right?
Right,
So
or Paul McCartney saying that they're bigger than Jesus or whatever.
well, that was John Lennon. So,
That was, of course, that was Lennon. I don't know why I said McCartney.
you know what? Well, sorry, but to that note, because I've thought about that comment a lot, is
Okay.
Oasis said they were going to be bigger than the Beatles, right? And they
Oh,
never got crucified, but they did fade away.
right. They were never big enough to cause a big stir with that comment. They,
Yeah,
they were good. They're good. Like, and they had a huge fan base. Like, I'm not writing them off, but I'm saying, I mean, when you compare them, especially the eras, the time frame, and come on.
yeah. Well, and the other one is Prince, right? I don't know if you remember Terence Trent D'Arby, but he
No.
had a song called "Wishing Well," and this is 1987, and great song, and he had all the moves and stuff. But I remember distinctly he was like, "Oh, I'm bigger than Prince. I'm gonna be bigger than Prince," and then poof, he just vanished, right? Like it's almost. But I actually read something the other day too. Prince or Michael Jackson in some video claimed that Prince tried to hit him with his car. And if you go and find it, like there's a video of someone talking the story. Michael Jackson told a bunch of people that one day Prince tried to run him over with his car, and then there was some other clip where, like, seemingly, and who knows if it's true, but Prince admitted to, oh yeah, I tried to kill him in my car. I hate the guy. Like with all the stories about Prince that I've heard, like Jimmy Fallon and other folks have like played ping pong with him, and just how he was just definitely different, right? Like he
Yeah.
fully lived his life as Prince, and everything he did was with that strong, I am Prince, I am funky, I'm the one and only, right? Like there was an ego there that was so centered in self that yeah, he tried to run over Michael Jackson. He didn't. He must have done it discreetly enough that no one saw, and you wouldn't get away with that today with video cameras. But
What's funny is he's Prince has led an interesting life because you said that to me and I've never heard it before. And like I'm not surprised. I'm like, oh yeah, I think I could kind of see that happening. Like,
no, think about his life. He was nuts, or not
yeah.
nuts. He was
It's
absolutely
brilliant. Yeah.
right, brilliant. You see the footage of him when he was a kid and he was a basketball player. Like he was a great
He was a good
5'6" basketball player. And some of the stories that you hear people talking about where he played basketball with people, and he's always got like a lollipop in his mouth, and
The
he
ones
just
on Chappelle's show, that one was epic.
it's just so funny. And then he went and changed his name. Like I'm not Prince. Like with a career like that, and then he's just like I'm not Prince because this record company didn't live up to our agreement. And although it seemed like half the time he was always breaking his agreements, but
Absolutely.
they were controlling him, which definitely larger companies will find ways to be sneaky. They have more lawyers. So all he's doing is fighting for himself, but at the same time, he was just willing to sacrifice it all. Like I'm just going to be known as a symbol, and then I'm going to go on stage at the Grammys and put "slave" across my face. And he wasn't talking about slavery; he was talking about him being a slave to the music industry, which
Yeah.
same kind of notions and stuff there, but a very different, public representation of all that too. Right? It was very interesting. Like that guy, and yet he kept going. And and then one day he was just gone, Mr. Like just suddenly too, right?
And going back to your question about making it a bit, the whole dentist experience, I think it's possible, but I think you have to carefully connect with the audience throughout the story and at first.
Mhm.
So, like, if I would, I would start talking about, whatever you hate about Dennis, all of that's going to be relatable. I wouldn't introduce like anything about the drugs or even that you were high until like later on, because they might even be funny if you talk about like, and then I envision myself as in my mouth, and then, oh yeah, by the way, I was on this and they were giving me drugs and whatever, like, but I would leave that out first, just because sometimes people use a filter, like something you say, if they
Mm.
can't relate with it, they'd be like, well, the story doesn't apply to me at all. And I try to be aware of that too. Like, you want to stand out and be unique when you're telling a bit, and for it to be funny, but you want to try to relate to something within people too.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I don't think a lot of people would want to be high in the dentist chair actually.
Mm.
But I let go is what I did. And by letting go, it was not a bad experience. Like it went from being like I used to be stressed out for 2 weeks leading up to the dentist. This time I was already went there just going like, no, my teeth are in decent enough shape. I've done this healing. I know CBD is going to help relax me. I got my audio situation figured out. The gas was just a bonus, but then totally sent me into the stratosphere. Like that's what caught me off guard is I was so relaxed. It was that meditative
Mm.
hypnotic state. And then I was just breathing in the gas. And so, yeah. She actually, the one thing the dentist said too is she said I had a poker face. Like the whole
Okay.
time that I was like 3 hours, no issue whatsoever. Like just nothing. And in my mind, I was like, that's true, but like how bad was I before then for like it to be that different to her, right? So yeah. And the other thing that happened too, I remember this. I'll just share it because it's sitting right there. Is they had booked me to do the whole thing, and then halfway through, she's
Okay.
like, "Okay, we're gonna be done for now. We'll have to come and do the other part another time." And I was
Oh.
like, and I'm like, old Sean would have been like, "Oh, okay," but I instead I said, "Oh, I understood I was here for all of it. That's why I'm getting gas." And I said that again, kind of out of body. I wasn't still back, but I
Okay.
just said it, and I said it politely. And she's like, "Oh, well, let me see if we can." And she said, "Oh, okay, we've shifted your plan. Now we can do it." So I don't know what shifting the plan was. When we started to do the third quadrant, like where we're going to continue, I need to go to the washroom, and it turned out that they were having a seminar. Like they had shut the whole dentist office down to have
Oh.
like a group seminar. A guy was teaching about toothpaste. So, and there was like 20 of them.
Well, you don't want to stay to watch that?
Yeah, and so I'm guessing what happened is she had booked me for these 3 hours, forgot that they were going to do the seminar. Maybe she hoped because I was completely out, I would just be like, I would just allow it to be like, oh, okay. But I was like, I'm not okay with that. That's why I'm here. I've built up for this, you know, like barring a family emergency, this is my time this time, right? And so she came up with a new plan, and it worked out great. But I think that's what it was she was, it was 5% sneaky. Maybe I can
Yeah.
go take a break. And I stood up for myself. Like my backbone was just like, and I had my own back, even if my mind was ready to give in. My
Yeah.
backbone was like, no, this is what I'm here for. You need a better reason than that, than like a toothpaste conference. So,
Right.
so
I probably would have just got up so I didn't have to sit in the chair anymore.
right. But then you have to go back, and so you go through that
Right.
whole
That's, yeah. That's
experience
the worst
again,
part.
right? So like, even on reflection, I'm like, damn it, dude, that was good. I'm glad I did that. But that's that was a turning point for me this week too, as far as just like this mental slump I've been in. It was almost like maybe that was the turning point. That's so interesting. Well, here I am talking about it right now as I go through my life journey.
And so,
Um,
oh, go ahead.
no, no, I was just looking at the time. You're good for
Okay.
time. I'm good for another half hour here, if you depending on how you're doing.
Maybe do like another 10.
Sure.
Uh, so the company that, well, like, it's like a group of guys, but that hosted the comedy competition actually asked me to come back. So I'm not able to do it this month because I'll be gone during that time. Um, we're gonna be out of town, but I know I did good enough to get invited back, so at least there's that.
And did we? We didn't actually talk about that last time, did we? Live. We just end up doing a Zoom
Oh
call.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So just for anyone that's been following along, and we have a pretty small audience at this point, but I love these chats. Um,
Same.
you went to do a stand up. I think there was 7 or 10 people.
It was supposed to be like 12. I think there were 10. Well, there were a couple people that were like added at the last second. I think
You were seventh,
maybe 12 at the end.
but you were seventh, right? I remember the seventh.
Yes, I was
You were
7.
seventh.
Yep.
But the ones leading up to you, 1 through 5, did not did not bode
Like
well.
4.5 were really rough. And I mean, yeah, there was another comedian who did fantastic, overheard a couple leaving saying, I just couldn't take anymore.
Wow. Yeah, that's rough.
And people
So, but
expect to be able to sit through some bad jokes and stuff, but it was like some of the comedians, and they were much more experienced than me, just didn't have the basic elements of a joke. Just if you have setups and punchlines, some of them are going to work. You're going to get some laughs, and people aren't going to get bored with you. Like some people just try to rely on impressions or just somewhat odd stories, but that didn't have punchlines. And I mean, you can add punchlines into any story. You just have to be a little creative with it. And just some of those just weren't. And there was a guy audience member who called somebody the R word. I don't know if I should say that on the stream or not, but called, yeah.
All right, what's the R word? I'm trying to think what the R word is. Well, oh, right. Yes, we did talk about that last time.
It's sensitive, especially with
the. Are we going to get to the point where you can't say the A word or the B word or the C word or the D word?
And we'll be like, oh my God, are we allowed to say even word? And I'll just say it because I'm quoting. The person said retarded. So I think there's some pushback where people are just, I don't know if it's like taking back words, but like, I don't know, being more open, being able to discuss them without using them in a hurtful way. But where that line is, a lot of people don't understand. And I think that's why people have just said, oh, you can't say that anymore. And I agree with a couple of them for sure. But I don't use a lot of words. I don't use that word unless I'm quoting or something. I'm not going to call somebody that.
It's the intention behind the word.
Yeah, it is.
It can be felt too, right? Like it's like, how is someone saying that? I heard something the other day that let's see if I can get this right, because it really was interesting. Like the next time someone says something to me that's hurtful or passive aggressive, the suggestion was to say, can you repeat that, please? Because often people will say something, but if they have to repeat it and all eyes are projected on them now, see if they will do it again. Because if they won't, you can be like, oh, that's interesting, which leaves them, like, what are you doing? Or if they're willing to repeat it, maybe their intention wasn't to be in the way that the person has decided to receive it because they've chosen to be offended, right? So it's such a useful thing that I haven't run into any instance where I've been able to use it lately, but I am ready that the next person that does that passive aggressive or says something really snappy that's hurtful, that's unnecessary, I'm just going to ask them to repeat it. And if they repeat it and you still don't like it, then you say, what's your intention behind that? Like, what do you mean by that? And if they still kind of go like, you're a you do all these things, then you say nothing. Because quite often it's a mirror of themselves back at them. And I was like, that resonated. I was like, oh my God, I can't wait to use that. Even just to like, I don't have to say a thing. I don't have to own this, but I do get to fight for, what's being projected at me and just reflect it back at them by taking a non-action, right?
Yeah, there's a comedian that I watch all the time. It's on a podcast, and a lot of times people will make jokes or say bad things about him, and his main go-to is like, oh, what was that? I couldn't hear you.
Mm-hmm.
And it almost always diffuses it. Like the person's just like, oh, whatever. Like they don't repeat it back, or they do, and you're just, oh, I'm having a hard time hearing you. What was that? You just keep repeating it.
That's a way of doing what I just said, right? Like that, because if they're gonna repeat it, then that's a way. like I used to avoid discomfort by having like avoiding confrontation, but it's because and there was a fear of what would happen next. But they are just words, and for the most part, it's not going to escalate beyond that. So it just comes from fears that are not valid for me technically. But um, yeah, that's so interesting. So what? How would he say it? Because that's like even in just lighter conversation, that's a way of diffusing things. What did he
He,
say?
he does it a lot. I'll make note of it, but I mean, almost. I mean, he's done it hundreds of times just because he's on so many of these podcast episodes that I've seen. Um, and his name's William Montgomery. Just like what was that, or what did you say? Sometimes if he's being more sassy, he'll say it like that, or just other times he'll act like he'll say like, "Oh, I'm having a hard time hearing you," or "Oh, I couldn't hear you. What was that?"
It's that one. I'm having a hard time hearing you. What is that? Because if you say what is that, it's almost too direct, and the person will alter. But if it becomes like it's just a hearing thing, and you're not showing ready to fight, see if they'll repeat it again. Because yeah, there's something with that nuance. I mean, a lot of people also say things before they think. And it probably behooved both parties to just not have the person have said it at all because it's not true. Actually, they're just frustrated and it's whatever trigger or, you know, disconnect they're having at another level, an emotional level or something. So,
Yeah.
ah, so interesting, man. People are funny.
Wait, what was that? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, it's just that dissonance that can exist between people, right? That
But
energy.
yeah, if somebody says that to me, my immediate like when you were saying that, I could feel it. Like I know what I do. I go through it immediately. It's like it goes to an oh shit filter. Like, oh no, what did I say? What did I offend this person? There's like 30 different thoughts that go through my head.
Hmm.
And then usually I rephrase it a different way, not just because I'm worried about like offending somebody or worried that I said something wrong, although that might be part of it, but also just because sometimes I pronounce words weird. It might just, or maybe somebody isn't familiar with a word. So I'll just try to think of a really easy, quick way to summarize it in the moment, an easier way of saying it.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know how much comedy we talked about today, but I definitely there's a couple of things where it's just like, whew, that's a
Yeah, I want to work on
clarity
some more.
moment.
Yeah, I want to get through some more bits. I want some more ideas. We got to keep this going and come up with some more ideas. Like because if I'm going to do that show again, I need some more material. I don't need a whole new 10 minutes, but I definitely want to keep building some new stuff. That gave me a little bit of energy. I don't like, you know,
It
have
should
the want to go on the road and tour or anything, but I'd
run
be
with
interested in doing it more.
I run with it, and like I think that we talked about this last week. It's out of town, right? So it's not in your main
This
circle.
one was closer. This one was just a town over. I mean, it was like 15-20 minute drive, but not bad at all.
Yeah, but how many people would have known you there at this point?
At that one, just a couple other comedians.
Yeah. So you really are like where you can go and be Michael 2.0 or Michael,
Oh
that
yeah, we were
Beyonce
talking
fat
about
spirit, right? Like,
doing something
like,
different. Yeah,
right? Like it is so tough to evolve or put yourself out there in your own town because you've got all these, impressions that people have on you. You can get in your head about that. So it's a golden opportunity to definitely try new material. If you want to try edgy and you're worried about it, like those people, they'll either like you or not, and then they're going to go back to work the next day. And so,
yeah.
wouldn't you rather have them remember you for pushing the envelope a little bit? And
And
like
I
you're,
don't worry too much about that just because, like, I've been here for a while. I don't
yeah.
know, 12, 13 years, but it's still not my hometown. I don't feel it like that for some reason. I don't feel like everybody's gonna know me.
Oh, weird. Yeah, I lived in Bermuda for 5 years, and I got so protective about my space because that place is so small. Like it's 18
Okay.
square miles in the middle of the ocean. There is nowhere to
Wow.
hide. And so everybody knows your business. Like you'd go into a restaurant, and after living there 5 years, I knew probably every single person in the restaurant. Like it was like being in Mayberry, right? And so I
Okay.
find myself extra, I think, sensitive to like, yeah, it's so interesting. I think I brought that back with me here, and it's just kind of like been lingering in the past of like everyone knows my business, but they really don't. I mean, this is a big enough town that nobody even knows who I am. It's perfect. So. Cool. Well, let's try again next Thursday.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, buddy. I'm going to close this off by putting our little thing at the end
Okay.
and your pimp laugh. There it is. See you, buddy.